When I moved into this old apartment building, I thought the worst I'd deal with was peeling paint and thin walls. But I had no idea the woman living above me was hiding something far darker. And one night, I walked straight into a nightmare I'll never forget.
I moved into this tiny, run-down apartment complex a few months back. The whole place looked like it hadn't been touched since the 1970s. The hallways smelled strange. The paint was peeling, and there wasn't even an elevator, but I didn't care. All I wanted was peace and quiet. For the most part, I got that except for the person living above me. Her name was Samantha. She was an older woman, maybe late 50s, early 60s. She rarely came outside and never made eye contact. Even when we passed each other on the stairs, she would barely nod, then disappear back into her place. When she did go out, she wrapped herself up in layers, like she didn't want anyone to recognize her. I figured she was just a little odd. At night, though, things were different. I'd hear her pacing for hours, whispering strange lines over and over. "You know you want me. I've been so bad. You know you want me. I've been so bad." It didn't sound sexy at all, more like she was trying to convince herself of something. One afternoon, I overheard our landlord talking to another tenant, saying Samantha was too old to be doing OnlyFans. It took me a moment to put it together. Suddenly, the whispers at night made sense. Fast forward to about a month ago. It was a Thursday night, around 11 p.m. I'd just gotten home from a late shift. I was sitting on my couch eating cold pizza when I heard something from upstairs that didn't sound like the usual acting noises. It sounded like a screen butt cut off halfway. Then silence. I sat there waiting for more sounds, but nothing came. A moment later, there was a heavy thud above me. My gut told me something was wrong. I grabbed my phone and went up to her floor. The hallway was dark. Her door was cracked open just enough for me to see her bare feet lying on the floor inside. They weren't moving. I pushed the door open slowly and stepped inside. Samantha was lying on the floor in a red satin robe, mouth frozen in a silent scream, eyes wide open. There was a dark bruise around her throat. She wasn't breathing. I stood there in shock before finally fumbling to dial 911. That's when I heard the toilet flush. My heart stopped. Someone else was still there. I ducked behind an old couch inside the apartment. It reeked of cheap perfume and cigarette ash, but I didn't care. I dropped to the floor and held my breath. The bathroom door opened. Heavy footsteps came out. Then the door closed softly. Peeking out, I saw a pale, bald man in a wrinkled trench coat. He started humming an Elvis Presley song, really slow and creepy. He crouched beside her body and stroked her face like she was alive. "You lied to me, said you were 20, acting like you were special," he muttered. Then he pulled out a small scalpel from his coat. Not a kitchen knife, a scalpel. He started carving into her arm, slow, shallow cuts, like he was making a pattern. The sound of skin tearing made me sick, but I stayed quiet. "You thought you could make me want you again. Look at you now." He laughed under his breath, then plunged the scalpel into her eye and pulled it out like it was nothing. I wanted to vomit. I had my phone out, recording from behind the couch, one hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. He kept slicing and talking to her like she was still alive. "You begged me to come back. You said you'd do anything. And now look at you, just lying there like the others." I was shaking so hard, my phone nearly slipped. He finally stood and walked toward the kitchen, still humming that awful tune. I crawled backward as quietly as I could. I slipped through the door, pulled it shut, then bolted down the stairs and called 911. I was choking on my words, crying, swearing, trying not to throw up. Police arrived in less than 5 minutes with guns drawn. They went up, dragged him out screaming. He was covered in blood and laughing like a maniac. Later, I learned the truth. He'd been one of Samantha's OnlyFans followers. She'd blocked him months earlier after he started sending disturbing messages. He had a criminal record assault, breaking and entering, stalking, but no one had taken it seriously. He'd been hiding in her apartment since earlier that day, waiting to punish her for not being his fantasy anymore. I moved out the next week. Sometimes I still hear his voice in my head, humming that Elvis song while cutting her up. I wonder how many other women he did this to before Samantha. Most of all, I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone upstairs 5 minutes earlier. Even now, long after moving out, I can't escape it. Sometimes in the dead of night, I swear I hear him again humming that same Elvis tune, waiting in the shadows. And I still wonder, what if I had walked in just a few minutes earlier?